Good morning, Dina and Tim. While the political picture in Venezuela remains uncertain days after President Nicolas Maduro was captured by American forces, with President Donald Trump saying the United States is now in charge. And the tension in South America could have implications for Canada. Ben Rowswell is Canada's former ambassador to Venezuela and a consultant with Catalyze 4. He joins me now. Mr. Rowswell, a pleasure to have you in studio. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. As Canada, I suppose, tries to ascertain really what the implications of the events now unfolding in Venezuela will mean for this country, what are you watching out for? And I suppose, what should Canada's role be in all of this?
Well, Canada has traditionally played quite a leadership role when it comes to democracy and human rights in countries in the Americas, like Venezuela, and so I think the statements that Prime Minister Carney has already made, reaching out to Maria Corina Machado, who is the sort of beloved leader that the Venezuelans want to see in charge, sends an important signal to Washington that we want to see a democratic transition quite quickly. I'll be looking for a quick return of her plus a man named Edmundo Gonzalez, who was elected by a massive landslide very recently, for them to return to Caracas and to take over the reins of power. Until that happens, there has been no transition. There's still a hardcore, socialist, corrupt, human rights abusing government very much in power. They've lost their president, but everything else about the state structure is totally intact. So what we need to see in Venezuela is a transition to a government that the people of Venezuela actually want.
What role should Canada have in, I suppose, facilitating a quick transition of power?
So Canada tends to play a role in coordinating all of the democracies of the Americas. They tend to look to us because of our previous record in the Americas. In Peru, for example, we helped a similar sort of transition from dictatorship to democracy. And so recently, Peru and Canada formed a group called after the capital of that country, the Lima Group. And that was how Canada was able to exercise a lot of influence on setting the tone of what's expected from other countries, that we really do need to listen to Venezuelans. And they do actually have a very organized democracy movement with an elected leader. We really need to take our cues from them because they're a sovereign country. And we can set the tone in that way that might be different from the tone that's coming out of Washington, but ultimately is one that's much more in line with what Venezuelans want.
I do want to ask you about that because you mentioned that Venezuela is a sovereign country, and there's, of course, no disputing that the Maduro regime was illegal and illegitimate. But I wonder what you make of how he was deposed, in that, you know, foreign military action was taken against a sovereign nation with impunity, and then Nicolas Maduro is transferred to New York instead of, say, The Hague to be tried. Yeah. Is that troubling at all?
Yes, very, very troubling. It's a precedent that we have to put a stop to. And I think the United States will soon regret its action. Militarily, it was really impressive what they were able to do. But in terms of legality, it was disastrous. It is completely against every law known to, human beings that you can go into another country and snatch the head of state or head of government and remove them. It is true that he was an illegitimate leader, not illegal, but he was illegitimate in the eyes of his own people because he stole an election from them. But ultimately, that is an issue for the Venezuelans to decide. It's not for outsiders like Donald Trump to determine who rules Venezuela. And so that's why it's important that Canada has sent an early signal that we're on the side of democracy in Venezuela. We're on the side of Maria Corina Machado, because that's really what Venezuelans are looking for now. They got rid of their hated dictator, big celebrations in the streets of Caracas on Saturday. Now they want to be in charge themselves, and they do that through their own elected leadership.
From a U.S. policy perspective, this was in part, of course, about oil, but also about, dominance over the Western Hemisphere. Yes. Trump mentioned the Monroe Doctrine multiple times in his comments on Saturday. Yeah. He has revitalized talk about American control over Greenland in the days that have followed. Just how concerned should we in Canada be about that kind of rhetoric, especially given the rhetoric that Trump has, kind of employed against us over the last 11 months, wanting to make us the 51st state? Just how concerning should that aspect be to us?
Well, I'll roll out the most alarming potential scenario. I don't think anyone's worried that there's going to be a snatch and grab operation against Mark Carney in Ottawa. There won't be military pressure against Canada. But they do have similar contempt for Canada's sovereignty in the way that they do for Venezuela's sovereignty. So they're going to attack Venezuela militarily. They are attacking us economically. I mean, the tariffs are an attack on Canada. And the so-called free trade negotiations that we're currently in the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement, CUSMA, are almost certainly to fail because they're going to insist that we kowtow to them. And so we do need to start getting our elbows up once again and making sure that the United States recognizes our sovereignty, having demonstrated its contempt for the sovereignty of Venezuela, and put all these these countries on notice. You know, they're like, we're going to attack Colombia next. We might attack Cuba. We're going to try and seize Greenland. We have to take this very seriously.
Okay, Ben Rowswell, I have to leave it there. I'm out of time. Appreciate your insight and analysis this morning. Thanks so much.
Take care.